For today, the call to order.
Make a motion, we approve the regular meeting minutes of May 4th.
I second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Make a motion, we approve the non-public meeting minutes of May 4th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Gonna read them all.
Motion, we unseal the non-public meeting minutes as identified as 3A, B, C, D, and E. A, B, C, D, and D. Yeah,
Second.
tongue twister.
All in favor?
Aye. Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Anything added? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Input. Anybody have anything they'd like to share with us? Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, hello to everybody here. I'm State Representative Jennifer Rhodes. I represent Winchester, Richmond, Marlborough, Swansea, and Troy. I am here today to talk about the speed limit sign on Holbrook and Swansea Lake Road. So the last I understood, there was some conversation that was an email going forth, back and forth with Joe and myself, which then turned into a telephone call, kind of back and forth just to kind of get right to through the conversation. So my general understanding of this conversation is that the town is interested and would like to pursue doing a traffic study to see about having the speed limit changed instead of going 30, 35 back down to 30. And for the record, the part, so it goes 30 and then it speeds up to 35 for, I call it a crosswalk, but essentially it's not a crosswalk, it's like the rail trail that goes through there, and then there's a cemetery entrance, and then it goes back down to 30 again. So my understanding that the concern would have been, is the state going to do this traffic study and then raise the speed limit? They wanted some reassurance that that indeed was not going to happen. So I have had a very extensive conversation with Mr. Lambert over at the Department of Transportation last Wednesday, as a matter of fact. And he has assured me that under no circumstance would he ever raise a speed limit in a town after a traffic study unless it was the consensus of the people to raise that sign, that was not a fight, or to raise that speed limit, that is certainly not a battle that he wants to have with the entire town if they don't want the speed limit to be changed. He said at the time when that would have been done, that would have been what the density had required for at that time. So where it's 30 is the town owns. And then so when it goes from 30 to 35, that is actually part that the state owns. And the reason it's different than the 30 is because that's what the density requirement had, I guess, supported that time. And then the reason it goes back down to 30 again is because there's more houses in through there. And then of course the density goes back up. So he said that, he could obviously await to hear any further instructions from the town, but he would certainly, support whatever it is that the town wanted to do as far as a traffic study and looking at having that speed limit sign changed.
Well, we sure appreciate you getting involved and bringing it to an opportunity to have a resolution. That's certainly better information than what we were getting before. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm sure you guys probably have Mr. Lambert's number, but if you don't, I would be happy to give it to you.
So when would they initiate how would the process move from here?
My understanding is that somebody from the town of Swansea has to reach out to him. I don't know what the paperwork is that accompanies to have a traffic study done, but there certainly has to be something from the town to initiate this traffic study. And then they, of course, will follow up with their report, and then they would come back and give you that report after that. He did say that we have a traffic study. If the town wants it to be reduced, that that belongs to you guys. Yes, they maintain that part of road, but he said that they're certainly not going to go against the will of the town. If the will of the town says, look, we don't like that it goes 30, 35, 30, now that this is brought to our attention and we've had a chance to really, sit back and look at it, then we'll reduce it. He certainly will do that, but he will absolutely not ever raise it unless the town says to please raise it.
But the fact that he's willing to have it reduced, it's interesting, an individual has such control, but anyway, that he's willing to do that, it would still necessitate a traffic study.
Yes, he's not gonna just, wave a wand and say, I'm Bill Lambert, I'm going to reduce the speed limit, but he can certainly do the traffic study and then come to you and say, look, this is what I think, and if you say, well, we actually would really like it to be reduced, then he said, then, all right, they at least have a traffic study, they can reduce it, but they're certainly not ever going to raise it. Worst case is it's gonna stay where it's at.
So essentially, if I understand you correctly, the traffic study is a requirement. The traffic study is done regardless of what it indicates. The town has the ability to recommend a reduction to 30, and that will happen.
The town has the option to recommend it to 30. Now, whether or not, I was under the impression that could happen. I'm not gonna stand here and say that it's going to be reduced, but I will stand here confidently and say it will not be increased.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
No.
I think we got the information we were hoping for to now initiate the process, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jennifer.
Yes, thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the swearing in and pinning ceremony for new police officer Jonathan Collins. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for inviting us. It's a very momentous occasion, at least for me, being chief of police for only about 6 months, to bring on a new officer of this quality onto our department. To work for the town, the people of Swansea is, I find, I get quite a bit of excitement out of it. I enjoy this part of the work. Jonathan comes from us from Hinsdale Police Department, where he worked as a police officer for about 1.5 years. Prior to that, he was a correctional officer for about 3 years, and he's working on his degree in criminal justice.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to Swansea.
Thank you for having me.
We're thrilled.
Okay, so we're gonna reenact the swearing in, which he did 2.5 weeks ago, May 2nd, on his first day. So Jonathan, could you stand, please stand? Quote after the raise your right hand. I, Jonathan Collins,
I, Jonathan Collins,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
and perform all the duties
and perform all the duties
incumbent on me
incumbent on me
as a full-time police officer,
as a full-time police officer,
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeable to the rules
agreeable to the rules
and regulations of the Constitution
and regulations of the Constitution
and the laws of the state of New Hampshire.
and the laws of the state of New Hampshire.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Now, in law enforcement, just like in the military, there's certain ceremonies. This ceremony is called a pinning ceremony. It embodies that fact that the officer's taking on the duties and responsibilities of a police officer. And he's having his girlfriend pin the badge on him as a sign of her support in his pursuit of this employment as far as a police officer. Obviously, law enforcement requires support of the family. It's a difficult job. You deal with very difficult situations on a regular occurrence. You have to work all hours of the day and night, work holidays, miss weddings. So it's very challenging, and we depend on our families to support us. So please, without ado. The key here is not to stab him. He's got his vest on, so that should help him. There you go. Very good.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to congratulate him too.
Thank you, sir.
Not a problem.
Thanks for having me.
Catch you on the way in, but
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thanks for having me. Welcome aboard.
Board again.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
And who knows where I live?
I hope he
Where
doesn't
you
know
eat
where I
dinner.
am.
Yeah, he does.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, chief.
Has he commented on the atrocious condition of the pavement on your road?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Next item on our agenda, Code Enforcement Officer Mike Jasmine regarding items within the Carpenter Hall.
Guys know we're looking at converting a section of that into childcare. Very excited about that moving along. And as we, collect all the different things and remove all the different things, it's becoming obvious that some of this stuff should probably just go once and for all. I have tried to find new places for the beds, thinking that maybe they had some value, and it turns out they just don't. I mean, they're dated, they're old, they don't make any standard anymore, and there's actually supply chains aside, there's a glut of old stuff like that laying around. So rather than move it again, try to figure out where we're gonna do it, just to store it again, just to eventually throw it out, I'd like to start looking at some of the obvious stuff in the beds and the mattresses. I think are the most obvious, and some of the other more standard issue furnishings are just long past their useful life. Now, there is some stuff up there that obviously antiquities that came with the original carpet home, things like that. Keep that in the carpet home, store it in a safe spot that we're not using right now. But maybe it's time to talk to a couple of antique dealers, maybe Richard Scarameliano, and keep him in the loop on things and see what his opinion on, what some of this stuff is, and the best way to either preserve it, use it, sell it, something. And stuff has real value, especially to some of the folks that still have ties to the carpenter home and the rest. But a lot of the stuff really just is just run of the mill, ordinary, broken furniture, quite frankly. It's just best to start thinking about disposing some of it. You don't want to do that because it's not my stuff. I talked to you about it.
You have a barn?
Not for that.
Is it of the commodity items or the type of things you could put on the Facebook page free for the taking?
Yeah, well, actually, I was talking to Michael, that would be really one of my preferences if we were to be, especially if we're working on a Saturday or something to help Alice get set up. We could just that Friday night do just that, put it that Friday night, we want people who really want it. I don't want dealers and things like that necessarily. Friday night, last thing out of the way, I have to go, hey, tomorrow, carpet home. If it's in the parking lot, it's yours. And I know there's a couple people. So I think that would be a good place to start, and then that would cut down on stuff that we have to throw away quite honestly. We did that with my mother-in-law's. When my in-laws passed, we had a house full of stuff, and we actually ended up having a by donation sale for family member who was dying of brain cancer at the time. We raised like $6,000 because people were just about giving it the cause. But I couldn't really, if you guys think that there's a cause that you guys would like to see a donation go to, then be happy to do it that way as well. If there's GERTs or whatever you guys think, I don't know. It's up to you guys, but I'd be willing to help facilitate that as well.
We can deposit in the Lucy Carpenter Trust, right? I mean,
I don't know if you can commingle. I don't know. That'd be a trustee's question. Commingle gifts.
And this budget,
yeah.
General fund is go ahead and budget.
I mean, ultimately, it's gonna, next year, probably, it's gonna start heading that way, right? So, yeah, if we could put it somewhere in the meantime. How much you think's there?
There's a lot there, but I couldn't imagine, there's a lot there, but I couldn't imagine.
How many tens of thousands?
I couldn't imagine much more than, I mean, on a good thing, that if you brought in $200, it'd be.
Okay,
I'm pretty
never
happy.
mind.
It really is, it's
Not
some
worth
pretty
talking
sad-
about.
It's some pretty sad stuff. It really is. But again, I don't, because of who we are, and what we do, and just perception, I want to make sure that if we're doing that, then it's very specific what we're doing, and people understand that, that's all.
Money will be used to support the current row. How about that?
And then again, it's voluntary, it's not like we're gonna be putting your hours.
Sure.
Any objections?
No,
We're gonna have to put covers on outlets and things like that, right? That we probably don't already have.
Yeah,
but-
yes, I mean, I think I expect us to do some of that. We've gotten together a couple of times and, you know, the hours upon us, we got a lot of moving to do soon here, so. I appreciate your help. That's gonna make a big difference as far as efficiency of this whole thing. And it's just fun. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Next item, Joe Smith,
That would be me.
Goldenrod Grange Hall Committee update. Welcome. How are you, Joe?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Good, thanks.
Good. So I guess for me, I just need some clarity, first of all, on the initial charge of the committee that was established. I believe we have an expiration date and it has passed. And if so, and if you want us to continue, I guess I'm asking you if you would extend our authorization to work as an advisory committee for the Grange. And I will also say with the caveat that it comes with the blessing of the town that the committee seek grant and funding opportunities to support the proposal that we put forth in our report in December to use the facility specifically for agricultural, educational, arts type activities. So that we have something that we can take to grant funders and say, this is the purpose of the building, rather than saying, well, we just want to preserve it for or something. So if we have a specific goal in mind, if you guys would give us that blessing and extend the committee, I would ask that you suggest that you extend it until you withdraw permission.
Until what?
That you extend the time frame of this committee until you withdraw it. So make it endless until you say, all right, enough's enough, goodbye, guys. I guess that's it.
How is it currently? Are there staggered terms or is?
Well, it was just, so as an ad hoc committee, I think we had, like Joe mentioned, I think, about a 6 to 8 month window. So the appointments were just through that time period. So we don't have like staggered 3-year terms because it didn't envision that long of a term. So the appointments were for the life of the committee, basically. I guess versus an open-ended, I think having some sort of sunset is beneficial because it at least gives us an opportunity to revisit and say, what's working, what's not, what's the next step versus just an open-ended. And then you guys, not that you would, but you go off and meet for 3 years, we don't hear much. And then, so I think there is some benefit to having a set time frame because, hey, you might not be here right now. If it hadn't expired, you might still be meeting. So that would be
What do you recommend?
sentiment in favor of a term. Another year, go to, next town meeting or next May, something like
I
that.
don't want to make it to December. And we'll report back in December, then you'll know where we are. As far as the warrant is concerned, if we're going to ask for more.
And then so long as the use goes, I'd still like to see it to be available for the community in general and the maybe use as a town hall annex kind of. We wanted to have public meetings there or something. So,
It's a long way away from
right,
at that point,
but I'm just saying that if we're gonna,
before it gets committed.
if he's gonna be looking for grants specifically for agricultural, we don't want to preclude any other uses, so.
Actually,
like this
your
one.
term did run through March 31, so you didn't expire too long ago. But yeah, I did have the initial report forward by, it said November. So
on slide, that was the original intent anyway.
Right.
So I concur with your sentiments.
Do you get a sense of what they're asking for, Joe?
Not at all.
Want to rephrase it?
We want it open-ended. So if you go for grants specifically for agricultural, you know, we don't want to have the grant come in and then all of a sudden have somebody say that you can't have a planning board meeting there because this is funded for agricultural uses.
Well, wouldn't they have to have the grant that they're going for approved by you guys to begin with anyway? You're not gonna.
Well, we don't want to be in that situation is what I'm saying. So I mean, if,
Okay.
when you apply for the grant, you just need to say agricultural and community uses or something like that, you know.
I'd be comfortable saying community uses. I'm a little leery saying for a town hall annex, because I think that would preclude possible benefactors. Saying if the town wants to use it, let the town pay for it, but if we can get arts organizations back, support us and farming organizations.
But on the flip
If we
side,
say,
like this place,
mhm,
the people wouldn't have supported what we did put into this with taxpayer money if we couldn't be here tonight doing what we're doing. So, you know, that's kind of the trade-off. It's a shared use.
well, like I said, I'd be really comfortable putting in their community use.
I mean, obviously, if we can get a grant for the whole enchilada and just agricultural, and then the Grange can do their own thing and the town doesn't have to be involved at all.
I
So,
don't care.
but I just have a feeling that the taxpayers are gonna end up paying for some of it.
Mhm.
So that more than we already have.
I mean, the other elephant in the room, I don't know who's gonna bring it up, but the building's really suffering. It's really, another year of thinking and planning is great, but it's just,
You know, do something in the next year,
Yeah,
the building's not gonna be there.
Well, there's already a sort of a map that what was done on this building. That, you know, there may be some grants that come in that are specific, but in general, I don't know, but Pete Johnson and the crew would know how they pulled this off.
They pulled out the pocketbook.
Well, but they did. But yeah, but there was the, you know, Kingsbury Fund and I'm trying to think of what the
Putnam
Putnam
Foundation,
Foundation, who was the guy?
us.
Tom Haas. That, you know, they weren't, I don't think that they were pigeonholed in any way. I agree with Sly. If the taxpayers are going to be expected to participate, then there needs to be a broad enough scope of activities that would allow the building to be used on a community basis, but not to the exclusion of the town government. You know, that's, so I think you got some pretty good brain trust between the two Michaels, I'm sure, that, and Sarah, that they can help craft that. So as Sly and Ken are asking for, that it's open-ended enough that you'll qualify for the grants you're going after, plus some other grants that may not be contemplated.
Okay.
But we agree with Michael and with you that time is of the essence and you wanna get going.
Okay,
So I would be in favor of extending it 2 years to March 31st of 2024 with quarterly feedback. It doesn't have to be that you come in and give us a report. It could be you give a one-pager to Michael. These are the grants we applied for, something like that. That way you're not going to be just waiting till the end and all of a sudden here comes the report. So, because we clearly the town is willing to support it to the degree that it has, and obviously is going to be asked to contribute
some more.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is that
Yeah, I'm
workable
fine with
for
that.
you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Thanks.
Okay,
We appreciate what you're doing.
see if it works.
Well, you've made some significant progress. And, well,
Some progress, yes.
you have, and it doesn't all come in one lump sum. It sometimes dribbles out and then all of a sudden it's a fire hose, but
There you go.
yeah.
Okay,
Thanks a lot, Joe.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Northern Borders Regional Commission grant authorization to apply.
We submitted our letter of intent for the reconstruction of North Winchester and California Street, and we were deemed eligible and were invited to apply. So I would ask the board to authorize me to apply for that grant.
I'll make the motion.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. And also a letter of support is in your folder for signing. Want to report back on a traffic issue that we experienced at a special event at the Cheshire Fairgrounds on May 7th. It's kind of unexpected. It was kind of the first real major traffic backup, at least that I'm aware of, since Safford Drive has been there. I know they used to have really significant traffic issues, but I think it's been better. Kind of worked with Jenna and Mike a little bit on kind of the after action report of what happened. Sounds like a couple different factors, coming out of COVID, things are getting a little more popular. They did have the event last year, but they had 2 separate arrival times versus this year they had just 1 arrival time. So it's kind of everyone coming at once. And they also kind of decided, they left it up in the air whether they were going to be charging for parking at the gate. And then ultimately they decided to charge for parking, which I think created the bottleneck. Once they became aware of the issue, they did forego charging for parking. So a couple different factors at play, but basically the short answer of how we're going to try to prevent it from happening again is we're going to add a questionnaire a question on our application if they're doing gate ticketing or some kind of ticketing at the gate. And then we can incorporate that into the traffic plan. We do require a traffic plan, but it doesn't specifically ask that. So if they don't offer, if they're doing gate style admission, we didn't know to necessarily ask that. And also the committee is going to try to be a little more assertive, get there, when they get back into the swing of things kind of post-COVID as things get more popular.
We're also gonna make sure that the police know that even if they haven't been contracted to be at the event, they need to drive by the event, especially at that time, to make sure that everything's working smoothly. I think a lot of times we go, are they gonna be are they gonna be part of the snow? And it just leaves their radar when really they still need to drive by and check it out no matter what it is. And so I think all of those things will go a long way.
Are we talking about the fairgrounds?
Yes,
Okay, just want to make sure I understood which event you were talking about.
yes, at the Cheshire Fair.
And of course, reach out to fairgrounds and try to get them to be more responsive.
So in this situation, was part of it that there was an underestimation of the participation?
I think they were trying to they're doing gate seals. I think they're doing it just too close to the road. Typically, when they collect for parking or something like that, they run the people up into the field quite a ways where you can stack 50, 55 cars. Well, if you're only stacking 4 cars, you're in trouble. People weren't expecting to pay. People don't carry cash anymore. We haven't figured out how they're doing, but if they're doing a square and things like that, relying on the internet service to try to get $10 more out of folks. I mean, it was poorly planned and poorly executed. Really quite that simple. Just got to make sure that next time doing our due diligence that we don't allow for poor planning. And we've been a little off our game. We haven't been doing a whole lot with the fairgrounds or anything like that. We haven't been getting a lot of events and that they did do it last year. The crowd was incredibly underwhelming, and we probably got a little more complacent than we should have been too. And just won't do that. That's all.
I kind of put that on the promoter more so than you. They've got to provide it reasonably accurate information.
Yeah. Well, that was the first question we asked was, how many did they estimate? How many did they get? Because that was the exact first question we had. And, of course, who really knows anymore? I mean, everybody keeps talking about when things get back to normal. I mean, it's so long ago. And that event only happened during COVID. So, excuse me, we don't even know what a normal monster truck event looks like. Which sounds weird by itself, but anyway, that's the situation there. Presumably next year, if the weather's good with this crowd, and as long as they didn't upset too many people, we'll be more prepared for a much bigger crowd, and maybe they'll have to go to 2 shows because they basically sold the receipt they had for the 1 show. So, we'll be dealing with it again next year. There were some things that they did wrong last year that we corrected this year. That just wasn't one of them. It just was not on the radar.
Because it wasn't an issue last
It
time.
wasn't, not even close. And even with all the concerts and everything that's been going on, I mean, parking hasn't been an issue in a long time. They've had some good sized events. It was just, like I said, I think people, they just didn't know the problem that they were creating until somebody brought it to their attention. Even if you're just standing there, you don't know how far down anything's going. And I don't think people also appreciate the fact that all those people waiting in line aren't waiting to go to the fairgrounds. That you got to think about that. And I don't know that they're really thinking about that in those terms. I mean, every other car, every third car, whatever it was just trying to get to where they were going. And of course, if they pull out of line, we've got a real problem. So yeah, we're a little rusty, I think all of us were a little rusty. So it won't happen again.
I think at a minimum for next year, it should be anticipated that they have police on site directing traffic regardless, just because prove that they don't need it,
Right.
as opposed to what happened this time. And maybe y'all could put something in place that if they are going to charge admission, they do so at a specific point so that you achieve the stacking that you're talking about.
Well, I think what you're saying there actually is they're all good points. And maybe you and Jenna came up with it on your own. But in all of this, trying to figure out what we're going to do next year, one of the things we didn't do is just say, oh, and by the way, write them a letter to make sure that we saw what happened. We're not going to be doing this next year. I mean, we have to make them aware that this was something that didn't catch our attention and it won't happen next year. So that's easily done. We should be doing that too. And we will do that too. And
How
make
was the
sure-
traffic at when the show ended and they exited? Was it a problem also or no?
Didn't hear any problems with that. Didn't hear any problems.
So it
with
was
that.
just collecting money at the gate.
Yeah, it was, I think it was just that bottleneck, it was kind of an amorphous area there, and I could picture somebody who really is not thinking about it, not knowing, well, okay, you do about, you there, Ricky, you do this, and you start, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you got a real issue there. But
Backed up
like
to
I
the
said,
cemetery.
that letter, I think, is really what we really want to do.
But if we cause them, if they're gonna collect money at the gate for parking, then they're gonna have to have traffic control. And I think we ought to make the traffic control big enough so that they will maybe look at it from the standpoint of letting people go in and park and then paying when they come through the gate on foot. So,
Yeah, and I also think, just like you say, just doing that is gonna make them a little more conversational than they've been. I mean, they really haven't been real great about communicating the whole issue. And of course, as soon as you start talking about, okay, well, you're gonna have to pay for that next year, then people start to be a little more cooperative and conversational about other solutions to make this thing as painless as possible, because really we shouldn't have a gap there much more than an hour if you're doing it right.
right.
It should be that simple. So,
And if they're backed up to the cemetery, like Bill says,
Yeah.
police probably isn't gonna really help either, because where are you gonna put them?
right,
So,
absolutely. So, but I think we're pretty good shape for next year. They should pen the letter, make sure they understand. We'll have Joe sign it, and that way they know the police chief's on board, and not just some weird little committee. And I think that'll matter, and that should take care of things. Sound reasonable?
Thanks, Michael.
Good.
June meeting schedule.
So I don't know if you're gonna continue to go, we did every other for a couple of reasons this month, but I don't know if you wanna stick with that. It seems to be working okay. We're able to kind of get through everything, without having 3 or 4 hour meetings, which I know Ken likes, but doesn't want to do every week, so. So I gave a couple possible options. 6/1 is the week of Memorial Day, so sometimes we don't meet that week. I know sometimes people have travel plans too. And then 6/15, the Municipal Management Association is having their conference in Keene. There's a dinner that night that I wouldn't mind attending if possible. And then the fire department, I don't remember for sure if it was either the regional chiefs meeting or something with Southwest Mutual Aid, but they were hoping to use the upstairs hall, which of course doesn't mean we can't meet that night also on the 29th. So if you wanted to stick with the every other, we could do the 8th and the 22nd. It's also a 5 Wednesday month, or if you want to meet more frequently, we can certainly do that too.
and we'll just, if something comes up, we'll meet.
Sounds
in the
good.
off weeks.
So we'll go with the 8th and the 22nd, and then as needed additionally.
July 6th.
Excellent. Good patriotic day. Everyone bring your fireworks.
We'll have to be upstairs for that.
No doubt.
The ambulance contract.
Yes, so we, Chief and I had a conference call with Mr. Deluzio last week, I believe. And so he explained and we agreed to one of the provisions, and the other provision we still had some kind of concerns about, so he agreed to remove it. We try to continue to work it out. It was about the data kind of question, so, but we've come to an agreement that we can all work with, so it's a 3-year agreement through June 30th of 2025. I did include kind of as an attachment, it's not an official addendum, but the City of Keene backup agreement between Deluzio, so that backup coverage that we wanted to make sure was documented.
And where are you with regard to the county? And any discussions with them?
I believe they're still looking at late summer, fall to get up and running for their operation. So it still would be within, after this new contract would need to be started. I don't know if Mike has an issue or has an update on the construction. I know they've done some.
No, they're just behind like everybody else. Simple size, everybody's just fantastically behind.
Are they behind due to planning or just availability of workers?
I don't know the specifics. I know.
Don't answer that because I don't think you know.
I know I haven't received a set of plans. I know that.
Oh, that's a pretty good indicator.
Right. They were expecting to get to me 3 weeks ago. So.
They're still in the asking phase as far as water service, so that hasn't been ironed out yet either.
I think they're finding it's a significant undertaking to get such an entity up and running. So I think the agreement we've got is a good one, and keep our options open moving forward. But I think stick with the tried and true option we know.
I'll make the motion.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good job, Michael.
It's not a challenging one, but thank you.
Personnel policy update.
Continue our march of progress on this exciting topic. I know everyone's probably enjoying. So couple of chapters here. So chapter 8 was in relation to dental insurance, mainly just kind of making the language consistent with the health insurance policy chapter, which you had approved at your last meeting. So I don't think it was a largely uncontroversial pilot chapter. So there was life insurance. One thing we were confirming is this talks about some reductions in benefits as employees get older. We just wanted to verify that those are still based on the policy of the provider, which is through Health Trust. So we just want to verify that, but we'll continue to follow the provider's information.
Do we have to have Health Trust fund that, or is that something we could self-fund?
The health insurance or the life insurance?
For life insurance, because it's a set figure.
Yep.
So we could basically put that money away, and could the trustees hold it?
Yeah, we could do a trust
Then
fund. Yeah.
what savings would it be kind of, so.
Yeah, I can double check if we have a lull here. I can tell you how much we don't. It's not a significant cost that we spend
Right,
on the life insurance, but yeah, I mean, for how often it's used,
Yeah.
I don't know of it ever being used. Fortunately,
Mike's sweating over there.
Ain't doing any out here, I tell you that.
so we can
Right,
we get back to you on.
for that amount of money, I mean, we could have a trust fund set up. Not have to pay somebody else. every
Yeah, or
year.
there are other, the Aflac, there's other options too, so it doesn't have to be through them either. We can look at that.
Just for the record, the trust fund would be set up for
Life
Life
insurance,
insurance,
health,
life
life.
insurance.
it's gotta cost something.
Oh, it does, yeah, it absolutely has a cost.
If we could get that 0.2% interest.
Don't spend it all in one place.
Yeah. Of course, next year, we might be up to 10% interest. Who
That's
knows?
my new cherry.
Yeah. Maybe that'll fund the life insurance trust fund.
Administrative update.
No, oh, yes, I wanted to update. So I attended the Primex annual conference last week, which was very good. Kind of the two top sessions that I attended. One was on cybersecurity. It was kind of a roundtable discussion with the folks from Primex and also Peterborough about their issue that they had last year. Everyone was very upfront and frank. They showed some examples of the emails that they had received. So it was, I thought I had heard enough and I almost didn't attend that one, and I was glad I did. They talked about having a critical incident policy to make sure when something happens, everyone kind of knows the steps. They talked about, if you get robbed on the sidewalk, you don't spend a couple days trying to find the person, see if you find out before you call 911. And with cybersecurity, I think I clicked on something. I don't know if it was the right thing. I'm going to do more research. Maybe I'll call, IT or Primex eventually. So I think that clarity of kind of what to do when it happens, I think would be very, very beneficial. So I'm going to work with Primex. One of the guys had their card that they can help us with having a policy in regards to that critical incident, and how to follow it. So that was very, very informative. And then there was one on kind of workplace culture and how to kind of develop a strong culture, how we often focus on negative behavior and try to correct that at that point versus trying to understand better why an employee is, why are they lashing out? Why are they getting upset about that? And kind of took a more long-term approach, which, if you have to take 3 to 5 years to fix your culture, that would be, a tough road to hoe, but just kind of how it just was interesting, that little pyramid that explained kind of that causal relationship. So that was kind of enlightening. So just wanted to report back on that.
And Primex does those, if you're in an accident, packets for the town vehicles.
Yes.
And I think they have a workman's comp packet.
Mhm.
We'll see why they couldn't have a cyber packet.
Exactly. So it's beneficial.
Good job, Michael.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? Last shot, last shot.
Bite of the apple.
Ooh, yeah, last bite of the apple. Gus? Oh,
Nothing from the governor and executive council?
Victoria study of government council. One of the items.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
you want to enlighten us or keep us in suspense?
No, it was. There were all the items, there were quite a few items, but with the Department of Transportation, they take all the contracts in March. And they have to go to government council, so automatically it was probably 20 items, 20 contracts went through, and they had to pull one because they wanted to question that one, but the other 19 went flying straight through.
So buying asphalt.
Keep buying asphalt.
You don't think gravel roads are coming back?
We got a chloride for that. We got the gravel too. We got you one way or another.
As long as we don't get the flying cars, you guys are all set, huh?
Yeah.
We're not getting flying cars? Good night, Michael.
We're working on it.
All right, Mike.
Good night. Thank you.
All right, nothing before
Oh,
non-public.
actually, I do have one other thing.
Actually, those UFOs are kind of flying cars. So.
Thanks for coming, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
We have a couple of grants where we're getting funds through the American Rescue Plan Act through the state. One of them is the asset management plan for the sewer system, and then Weber Hill Road. I need you to authorize me, it'd be helpful if it was generic, so I don't have to keep coming back, to accept state funds from through the American Rescue Plan Act and to enter into relevant contracts. If it's a grant, you're gonna have to do the hearing. We've had articles for these ones, but it's just reference to the contracts, so I can obligate. us.
We'll make the motion as
I can
generic
help
as you
yeah,
can
I
make
can
it.
help you clean that up. But contracts related to the American Rescue Plan Act.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
You got that, Beverly? Forgot to ask. You're gonna work with Beverly on. Anything else? Last chance, Gus, we're gonna have to boot you out.
Going to non-public?
Yeah,
Shouldn't take too long.
there's only 6 of them.
The only thing I would say is, you look at your assets and they're really, they're really pushing that stuff big. Your biggest asset is all the roads you own.
Well, this is for the sewer.
Yeah.
Primarily,
That's
right?
one of the- I mean, that's the infrastructure, so, be proud of what you own. and
Yep.
value to it. Yeah. It's, the big things. You get money to take care of your assets. All right.
And then when you apply for a grant, they want to see if you have your asset management plan, so.
Exactly. So,
Thanks for coming, Gus.
Good night, Gus.
See you.
Good night, guys.
let's go in under B.
Motion to go in under B.
Hiring.
Second.
Colby,
Aye.
Walker,
B, I'm sorry,
yes,
B.
B hiring.
okay.
We're gonna do the third one first.
All right.